You're listening to the Ex-Girlfriend Tattoo Podcast.
Howdy, this is the Ex-Girlfriend Tattoo Podcast. I'm Austin Larson. I'm here in beautiful Browns edition. Today I'm joined by my guest, Tia Cochran.
Hello there.
Tia, thank you so much for being on the show today. You're tattooing out of the Tattoo Temple in Rathdrum, Idaho right now, right?
Yep.
How long have you been tattooing professionally?
For about 3 years professionally.
Oh, hell yeah. Were you raised around the tattoo industry / tattoo culture?
Not really. I was pretty young when I kind of was introduced to it, I guess. I started seeing more people with tattoos, and it was just kind of an enigmatic thing. No one in my family really had tattoos, and so it was just kind of mysterious to me, and that's sort of why I was drawn to it.
Kind of opposite of a fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
So what were you doing professionally before tattoos?
I worked at a juice bar.
There you go. I feel that. So was there a catalyst to you becoming a tattooer?
I was living in a small town at the time, and the shop that was there had a really, good crew of talented artists, and the owner unfortunately passed away, and so I thought I'd, go in and get tattooed and kind of support them through that rough time. And the guy that did my tattoo was kind of mentioning that they needed people to work there, so it was just a no-brainer. I was like, hell yeah, I want to work at a tattoo shop. So I started on as a counter girl, and then it kind of progressed into an apprenticeship because I'd always been into art.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. You kind of worked your way up from the counter to an artist. That is very cool. And then was that the same shop you're at now?
No, this was in a tiny little town in California.
Oh, okay. Cool. So from Cali originally? Just curious.
No, I was actually born in Spokane.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. You've lived all over.
Yeah, I kind of bounced around.
Hey, no, you got to go see the coasts, right?
Right.
During your apprenticeship, I guess, or really from being a counter girl all the way to an apprentice, any fun stories from those early days?
So even though it was a small town, it was nestled right in between the Sierra Nevada mountain range and the White Mountain range. So we got a lot of climbers and a lot of passers through because it's right south of a popular ski mountain too. And so yeah, there'd be some interesting characters that come through. I was just the other day thinking about this one guy that came in super young, probably barely 18, and he was talking about getting a huge Playboy bunny on his face. He just made me feel really unsettled. He was talking about how he bought a Playboy the other day and had no nudity in it and how pissed off he was, and I was like, then why do you want to get it on your face?
Did he have any other tattoo? First off, did he have any other tattoos, or was he totally blank trying to get shit done on his face?
He was pretty blank, yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Even if you have something on an arm or a leg, it's no, you're not heavily, no.
Right.
You don't fucking do that.
I think maybe he had some basement tattoos on his neck.
Ugh.
But still, from what I can remember, nothing really on his arms.
Anytime I see just a standalone neck or head tattoo, it's cringy. It's never good,
Right, yeah.
In your professional opinion, flat out, do tattoos have to have meaning?
No, absolutely not.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I am very much of the same philosophy. In your career, have you found a preference for a rotary or over coil, vice versa, anything like that? What do you tend to prefer?
I feel like I'm pretty loyal to the coil, but, rotary definitely has its place. Sometimes it's nice if I'm having a busy day, I don't want to worry about if I need to adjust anything, and rotaries have their place. I'm not a hater that's oh my gosh, I can't believe you tattoo traditional tattoos with rotaries or anything like that. But I love coil machines, and I love what you can achieve with them, as well as kind of customize them to be for your preference of tattooing.
Oh, I completely understand that.
Yeah.
In there, so do you have a preference over long needles or cartridges?
Definitely, yeah. Needle on bar for sure.
Needle on bar,
It's just more direct.
Do you feel you see clients at one time of the year more than others? I guess, is there a busy season for tattoos?
The summer, it's so busy right now. And I think with the shutdown, too, that happened, that definitely was a catalyst for people being we gotta get tattooed. I don't know why. I don't know if it's also playing catch up or what it is, but it just seems I am getting a lot of clients I've never seen before, too. So I don't know what kind of happened this summer, but it's so busy. But yeah, it usually is pretty busy in the summer.
You found summer to be okay. I guess I was kind of expecting it to be the opposite, just because summer everyone's trying to go out to the lake or go swimming.
You probably think that because you've gotten a lot of tattoos and you know that it's better to heal them in the winter is my assumption.
A lot easier, yeah. It's speaking of which, what are just some of your personal aftercare preferences? I know a lot of people really like the Tagaderm.
Yeah. I use those kind of meat pads, those dry lock pads usually, because I don't like the blood and plasma kind of building up on the skin. I like it to be off of it so that you can wash it a lot easier. And then I like using kind of as all natural as you can get. So shea butter usually works wonders for kind of keeping it protected and moisturized.
Very cool. Thank you. So in an average week, just in the shop, how much time do you spend tattooing?
That's a good question. I don't really think about that before. I definitely tattoo at least once a day, usually if not twice or more. It depends on, like in the summertime, people do tend to get like smaller tattoos. So I might spend a little more time on multiple clients, like maybe 5 clients in a day getting kind of smaller stuff. And then towards the winter, it probably does get into those bigger pieces that people, kind of work on and have a little more healing time.
So in an average week, I guess, just outside of actually tattooing in the shop, how much time do you think you spend drawing for clients?
Oh man, at least 2 or 3 hours every day. Probably some time before work and after. Yeah.
There's homework, I mean, I feel like people don't really think about it enough. But
definitely not.
Just, that tattoo, it might have taken 3-4 hours to actually apply to your skin, but it was drawn, probably close to a dozen times before the stencil was even applied to you,
Right.
I mean, there's homework involved, I mean,
there definitely
artists spend
is.
so much time. Like, I know that you use Procreate, right? I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, but you use that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The time-lapse function on that, oh my god. It's just seeing how many times it gets drawn. It's fascinating, you know?
Drawn, tilted, moved around. That's what I really enjoy about Procreate is you can, if you like a certain part and you just want to keep that, you can kind of cut it out and move it and manipulate things like that. So it does make, especially making a clean stencil, so nice.
Oh, yeah, and then working with layers, that type of thing. So have you ever had to tattoo or even just draw with an injured hand, arm, finger, anything that makes it kind of difficult to manipulate?
Not really. I had a coworker that broke their wrist once. And I've actually had 2 coworkers that kind of broke their wrist.
Ooh.
Yeah. And that didn't seem like it was any fun to tattoo with. I've had kind of like soreness in my stretching hand, or like if I've, I don't know, maybe gotten a little too drunk on a previous weekend or something and fell or something like that. There's soreness, but I've never had, knock on wood, a bad injury.
Hopefully it'll stay that way,
Yeah, I hope so.
Hopefully. You're versed in all styles of tattooing, definitely, in your portfolio, but do you feel, of course, do you feel that clients request one style more than another from you?
I would have said color probably a few months back, but I feel like I've been doing so much black and gray lately, which is surprising to me because I prefer my color over black and gray. But yeah, I definitely have been doing a lot more black and gray lately.
Okay, yeah, no, I was going to say, because your portfolio, there's a lot of very bright traditional stuff in there. So, I mean, yeah, you have a very nice color palette. So, okay,
that, yeah.
No, it stood out, definitely.
Nice.
Your portfolio stands out. So do you feel that you develop the same rapport with your clients akin to maybe like a bartender or a barber, server, that type of thing?
Oh, definitely. It's funny because, you always hear people say like, oh, it's ink therapy. And I think it's more therapy because I don't know what it is. If it's like all tattooers, I think definitely get this, but even before I was a tattooer, people just kind of naturally like opened up to me really easily. And so, yeah, I think that it's partly therapy because they are getting like a talking through therapy session, and I'm like trying to give them advice where I can, or just listen and, oh yeah, that sucks, I'm sorry to hear that type of thing. So
I agree. Some of the conversations I've had while being tattooed, I mean, they can get pretty deep. And I feel like also because you're spending so much more time than in a haircut or, I mean, a bar or something like that. I mean, if you're going in for, a 3-4 hour session, I mean, it feels a hell of a lot longer.
Yeah.
Although I'd bet that, when you're actually having to stretch and tattoo someone, kind of hold them down a little bit for that long, I'm sure that doesn't really fly by either.
Right. And also, like, when you're in such close quarters, you're being touched and touching someone, that definitely breaks down a barrier of not comfort, but you just feel a little more apt to open up and, yeah. Yeah,
no, definitely. I mean, no, that's a very good observation, I guess, especially if, I'm getting like a leg done or an arm and I'm sitting there half naked all day and just, it's kind of like, oh yeah, well, I guess there's no secrets anymore.
Yeah, totally.
On average, do you feel that clients give you the right amount of creative or artistic freedom, trust, that type of thing?
I would say so. I think that I've built a clientele that, they come to you for your style or because they've seen what you're capable of. So they kind of want to go along with that. People definitely like kind of being read and then given what you think they want in a way, if that makes sense.
I feel that.
And then I mean, of course you have those occasional maybe first time tattoo clients or people that are just very particular. And I mean, they still are putting their trust into you because they know you can execute it, but they might be a little more rigid on their flexibility of things they want changed from their reference or things that they want included from their, you know, their own like thoughts of what they've predetermined they want the tattoo to look like.
Oh, I totally hear that. I've known some people who just, you know, they well, it's my money. I'm the one paying for it, and that's just, well, would you say that to, you know, your dentist or your surgeon, anyone like that?
Yeah.
I guess kind of going in that vein, what are some of the worst client experiences you've had professionally? And I guess especially since you've worked on the counter too, you know, I mean, you've seen every stage of it.
That's a good question. You know, I think actually the thing that people get up in arms most is having to wait. They want to get it done that day sometimes. I remember actually in my apprenticeship, there was a chick that wanted to get like a half sleeve. I don't know, maybe had done 2 or 3 tattoos in my apprenticeship at that point, and so definitely not at the level to be able to do a half sleeve. And she wanted Jack Skellington, and like really big, and you know, he's got a white skull face, and I wasn't gonna put a bunch of white into her skin like that.
Yeah, exactly, because it never turns out the way people think it works, you know?
Right, yeah, and so she just was very adamant, like, I need to get this done today, and I was like, it can't be me, you know, because I'm not at that level yet. And so, yeah, people just can be a little bit impatient with, you know, oh, I don't want to wait 2-3 days or even a month or whatever. But my thought about it is it's permanent. So whether, like, you've waited this long to get it, so I think you can wait a few days to a month or so, you know?
Seriously. And I mean, if you want it done that day, is it because you just thought of the idea that day?
Right, yeah.
Maybe you really like it today.
Yeah, some people are very spur of the moment clients, you know?
I mean, I've had walk-ins done before. I've had randoms and that
for
type
sure.
of thing. But I mean, definitely not anything that, you know, no, this is something I need, absolutely.
Especially like a half sleeve.
Oh my God.
I just thought of another client that he was like over drinking at a bar that's close to the shop I'm at currently. And he comes in and he's like, and it was like, you know, 6-7 o'clock, like we were close to closing. And he's like, I've thought about this tattoo for probably 10 years. And he wanted a whole sleeve. And he's like, I've searched for an artist to find it. I'm really picky. I'm so particular on how I want it to, you know, be represented. And we talked for a little bit. And then he was like, so do you think we could get started on it tonight? And I was like, I couldn't even start a drawing tonight. Like, I still need to find references. You need to kind of show me some more ideas that you're thinking of. So he put a drawing deposit down. I gave him my card and said, you know, just search around. Like, he wanted a broadsword. And so I was like, find a particular blade, hilt, handle, all that kind of stuff. The details that you want in it. Find some like realistic references and send them through so I know what to incorporate into this. And he, for months, never got a hold of me. And, you know, like I said, I gave him my card. So I was expecting him to send me those images and then I'd have his contact information. And yeah, months went by before he came back in, and he threw a fit when he came back in. He was like, I have not heard from her for months, and I've got a guy that's ready to do it right now. And I'm like, was I supposed to use like telekinetic brainwaves to contact you? You know, like, I gave you my card. You can call the shop at any time. You can message our page. Like, he didn't even offer to leave his own contact information or anything.
We didn't do this, you know, telepathically, dude. You got to let me know.
Yeah.
Oh my God, wow. So on the other side of that coin, though, you had any clients that just stand out like, oh my God, you just sat there, took it like a champ, tipped well. I mean, you're awesome, you know?
Oh, definitely. I have some clients that I always love to tattoo. And they're like, I have clients that will come in and they'll pay in full and like, they don't even know how much it's going to cost and they'll just pay a certain amount and they're like, we'll chip away at it. It's fine. And I'm like, those are the people that, you know, I really appreciate, or the people that, I don't know, they're so happy. I did a cover up on a girl's foot recently and she was so happy. Like, they gave me a pretty decent tip and then came in and gave me more money after they had left already. And I was just really appreciative because, you know, it's nice to make people happy, especially with cover-ups, because they're looking at this tattoo for so long, and then you finally get to see something pretty over it. So, yeah, definitely gratifying to do that.
I mean, a good cover-up is nothing short of life-changing, you know?
Yeah.
I've had stuff covered up that it feels like being born again almost,
totally.
You know? Anyone approach you with a tattoo that you tried to talk them out of?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain placements of things where the ink is not going to stick and you have to remind them of that, or things that just aren't going to hold their integrity. A lot of people will bring in those like kind of hyper realistic no outline tattoos, or things that are very colorful, that are light colors. And, you know, at the end of the day, if someone really wants something, I will do that for them, because kind of like you mentioned earlier, it's their money, it's their body. So I will grant them that. But I've had people that I do that and then they come back and they're like, yeah, can we put outlines on this? Or, you know, like, can we do something darker? Or, you know, it didn't stay at all. It was on the side of my finger. And yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Finger tattoos don't stay. That's why I got Stay Bold done. Are there any tattoos that you've just outright refused? People coming to you with, like, I guess, the first thing that comes to me, like, is just hateful imagery, that type of stuff. For sure. But I mean, so people have approached you with things of that nature and just refused to do?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I can't think of a lot of people that have come in with hateful tattoos. Yeah, there's been things that people are like, I was thinking about this, and I'm like, no, absolutely not, you know. Yeah, pretty much like white supremacy tattoos. Haven't had a lot of experiences with anything like that, but like there's the occasional person where they're like maybe trying to be sneaky about it or something, and it's like, no, we're on to you, get out, that type of thing.
Seriously. And it's like, as an artist, I don't want to sign my name to that. I don't want to have that, you know, on my conscience or anything. It's completely understandable. Have you ever done any tattoo conventions or guest spots anywhere, anything of that nature?
Well, yeah, so I did the All Hallows convention last year, and then I've done like guest spots in the shop that I used to work at. I haven't branched out too much just because I still feel like I'm a baby tattooer. Yeah. So I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta, you know, like maybe build up a little more confidence in that portfolio until I feel like I'm ready to branch out. I'd love to like kind of travel the country though, from town to town, and just set up guest spots and kind of like pay for my trip that way.
That'd be dope as hell. I mean, that'd be a great way to see the country. You'd always be working. I mean, the skill set is pretty universal. I mean, even though every state has different regulations, that type of thing. I mean, it's not like a machine's going to work differently in one state than it is another, you know?
Yeah.
How was All Hallows last? That was the 1 year I missed. I was actually busy that weekend.
Okay.
Was it good?
It was great. Yeah, I had a great time. It was my first time doing a convention. We probably should have got maybe a 2-booth spot, because we just had one, and it was me and Jake, the owner of Tattoo Temple, that were tattooing out of it. So we were kind of back to back. It was still a great time though. I mean, definitely good memories. I did some fun tattoos, and I got to see a lot of cool people and, you know, meet new clients and new tattooers. I always love like kind of seeing everyone's portfolios and their art that they bring. The banners are always fun to see kind of what everyone does. I got tattooed there, and that was great. So yeah, it was a good time.
I love conventions so much. They're always just so fun. I really hope we have Three Rivers this year. I mean, I know they already canceled Seattle and All Hallows. I just said Three Rivers, didn't I? I really hope we have All Hallows this year, because I know they canceled Three Rivers, they canceled Seattle, so yeah, we need All Hallows.
Right.
In your career, what's the proudest accomplishment you have so far?
I think just like making my clients happy, building that clientele. You know, I get a lot of people that they'll message me at random times and just be like, oh, thank you. Like, I just love your work. And that's really fulfilling. Outside of tattooing, I've done some pretty cool art shows. I'm proud of that, you know, and just more than anything, I'm like proud that people are excited to wear my work. Yeah, just that excitement and that happiness that they get from it. That's definitely like, that's a big accomplishment to me.
Well, hell yeah. So you kind of alluded to it earlier, but growing up, you were kind of considered artistic?
Yeah, like as soon as I could hold a pencil, I was drawing. I always wanted art supplies as a kid. I always wanted to make a mess. I drew on so many walls growing up, and thanks, Mom, for putting up with that. But yeah, and like my aunt, when she would babysit me, she always had some kind of art project, and you know, I would like scribble on a piece of paper and she'd be like, you're an abstract artist. And I definitely accredit that to being like, hell yeah, I'm an artist. You know, I think without that confidence, I probably wouldn't have been more apt to like step into a shop and be like, yeah, I think I could do this. So
something that it was always kind of encouraged, like, when you were growing up. All right, I feel that. Growing up, is art something you knew you wanted to do professionally?
Of some sort. I wanted to do like music for a while. I wanted to do sound engineering. And I mean, I played guitar and like sang and stuff too, like that. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll become a musician. And then my fallback would be like sound engineering. And then I thought about it more and was like, nah, I'm not so good at guitar. I felt like, at least I didn't want to, I don't know. You'll obtain what you want. And I was just a better like visual artist than I was a musician. And so that's just kind of what I went down, like the path I went down more.
So overall, what would you say your favorite style to paint and draw in is?
I think that I have like different styles for each medium that I do in a way. I think that my painting kind of comes off as like pop surrealism, kind of lowbrow stuff. And then I would say my drawing is maybe a little more like illustrative, neo-traditional, I feel like is a word that gets tossed around a lot. And I feel like that kind of fits. Yeah. Strictly
for tattoos though, do you have a favorite style of tattoo to do?
I'm happy to do a traditional tattoo any day of the week. I don't know, I like anything. I just like tattooing, so I'm appreciative to do any tattoo, but anything that's like got those bright, bold colors and strong lines, I always love doing a good bold line, so yeah.
Well, hell yes. Let's see. I'm glad you mentioned traditional there because I was just going to say, so with traditional, how important is a sense of humor just for that style?
Well, I think I'm really partial to funny tattoos or just funny art in general because I just love to laugh and I love comedy in general, but I definitely think it makes for a better tattoo if you can kind of laugh at it a little bit. But it's not necessary because there's plenty of traditional tattoos that have like a sentimental mood to them or
definitely, I've seen a lot of tributes in traditional. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
How long have you been drawing digitally?
Probably around 2 years.
For drawing, do you have a preference over digital versus paper or canvas?
Probably paper, to tell you the truth. There's certain things that I'll do just solely on my iPad, but there's other things where I just really like the organic, pencil on paper. It's weird because at times I feel like I almost get kind of trapped in a box if I'm on my iPad. I feel like it kind of is limiting in a way. It's not. You can do really incredible things with it. If you ever see like the realistic stuff that people do, like painting wise on their iPads, absolutely insane. But for whatever reason, I just kind of have this mental blockage sometimes on my iPad. So I like, pencil on paper.
And would you say that's applicable for tattoos as well? Like, do you prefer drawing tattoos out on paper versus digitally?
Yeah, I think so for sure.
What inspires your art in general? Like pop culture, music, nature, that type of thing?
I feel like definitely some pop culture gets mixed in there quite a bit. I'll have kind of ideas to do, again, funny stuff based off of, like, I think a lot of people can kind of center their personalities around things that they like of pop culture. And so those become popular tattoos and stuff. So I'll kind of make things that are based off of that. Video games too, especially. I feel like I do a lot of video game tattoos, which I love to do. And so that's always fun. But then I don't know. I think kind of whatever hits me at the moment. I feel like I'm always inspired to do something space themed. If I sit down just to do art and I don't already have an idea, the first thing that always comes to my mind is space. So, or aliens.
Ooh, yeah. Okay.
So
I was going to say no, because there was I think it was just a painting in your portfolio. It was They Live, John Carpenter's. Yeah. And I just, oh man, that was fucking dope as hell. I really love that one.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. So how do you feel about scratchers?
I mean, they keep me busy with cover-ups and stuff, so...
That's an optimistic take. I love it.
Yeah, I try to look at it that way. You'll find them a lot more in small towns, I think. And so, yeah, the town that I was taught to tattoo in, we had a lot of people there that were, like, tattooing out of their kitchen and stuff. And yeah, like I said, they keep me busy, so that's fine with me. But just, if you're interested in it, put it down, try to get an apprenticeship, work on your skill set, and just try to get an apprenticeship. Please, like, stop giving people horrible tattoos. I'm sure you've seen the, like, nasty images of people's scabs and infections. Oh, God, it makes my skin crawl.
Like, it's like sunken in and no. I mean, I know that you're saving money right now getting it done in a kitchen, but that cover up or the hospital bill is going to be fucking so much more.
Yes.
You are a tattoo artist. You're also heavily tattooed. Do you feel that you've ever faced discrimination or prejudice from either being heavily tattooed or tattooing professionally?
I think a little bit. I kind of didn't assume that was going to happen, and I really don't let it bother me too much. But the other day I got pulled over, and the cop was just treating me like I was a piece of shit, and like I couldn't afford any of the, like, fines that he was threatening me or anything like that. And it's like, I don't want to have to pay those or anything.
No one does.
But it was just such a, like, power trip move that he had to be like, you can't afford this. I'm like, do you know how expensive tattoos are, sir?
Serious. And because, my shit's not cheap, you know?
I don't know. I was just very taken aback by his, like, I don't know. He just was very much wanting to ruin my day.
Well, to be fair, though, that does sound like pretty typical cop behavior, so.
Yeah, I mean.
What are some of the more negative stereotypes that the general public has about tattoos and tattooing that you've noticed?
I mean, of course, jail and stuff like that. But it's funny because people will see, like, people even with colored tattoos, like, you can't make colored ink in prison. You can only do black and gray. And so it cracks me up when people be like, oh, like, look at that guy. I wonder where he did his time. I'm like, he didn't. He got those tattoos out in the real world. Like, I had a client that I tattooed the other day who was talking about the guy that she was seeing, saying the tattoos were trashy. I've seen more stuff on Facebook and things like that where guys are posting, like, that they think they're trashy on women, which is fine, you know? I mean, if they don't like the look of it, that's fine, but maybe keep it to yourself. I don't think that's something that you have to put out there, I guess. And then people always talk about, like, having tattoos and not being able to get a job. And I mean, yeah, of course, there's professions or business owners that don't want their employees to be tattooed. But for the most part, it seems more and more like people care less and less, because I don't think having a tattoo on your skin affects the job that you're going to be able to do. Just the way that, I guess, you know, that stigma of how they look and come across to clientele is what they're worried about. But even still, I think people are caring less and less about it.
I'd agree with that, definitely. I do feel like you did point it out. I've also noticed a little bit. I feel like now more than ever, there's more, or at least I guess in kind of my observation, there's a little bit more of a stigma against women with tattoos, but not so much men. It's kind of a bullshit double standard, you know?
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. Like I was saying, I've seen more kind of guys and stuff being like, oh, it's trash here. Like my client mentioned that this guy that she was seeing mentioned like, oh, I don't think you should get that because tattoos are trashy. And she was saying that he had tattoos. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, so is he admitting that he's trash then?
I know, right?
That's...
But
okay.
then I also think there's very much a like... that they can be sexualized on women too, that people see tattooed women and they're like, oh, you know, it's like a fetish almost.
So she must be one of those girls. She obviously, you know, fits the description, that type of thing. Maybe,
but I think also there is that, and then I also think that there's like people are attracted to that too, like in a good way, you know, that they're like, oh, I think that's really hot when, you know, girls have tattoos. I've definitely met guys that are like that too, so.
Just curious, guys with tattoos or without?
Both. But sometimes I feel like guys with less tattoos almost get a little bit like emasculated by heavily tattooed women. Yeah. And they're like, I gotta get tattooed quick.
Oh my God, that's... Well, on the other side of that coin, though, do you feel you've ever received preferential treatment because you're so heavily tattooed, or like as soon as people find out that you are a tattooer?
I think so. Yeah. Like I went into a store recently and they like every employee kind of flocked to me and was like, oh, your tattoos are so cool. And I was like, thanks. And I mean, that's cool and stuff. There wasn't like a lot of other people in the store, so I don't think that they were distracting too much from helping them. But like, I do notice that, or if I'm like out somewhere, you know, people at bars will approach you, and that's a surefire way to start a conversation. Oh, I like your tattoos. And it's like, thanks. And a lot of times I won't say that I'm a tattoo artist because 9 times out of 10, people then only want to talk about the tattoos that they want to get. And I'm like not trying to work on my playtime. And so, but it's funny because if I'm out with friends, especially friends that I tattoo, and their tattoos get complimented, oh, thanks. Well, she did them. And I'm like, don't say that, you know?
This is the Ex-Girlfriend Tattoo Podcast. In the first episode, we kind of defined the ex-girlfriend tattoo as basically a tattoo that's somehow associated with a relationship that, you know, didn't work out, you're not in anymore. Do any of your tattoos fit that description?
Fortunately, no. I'm so thankful. So one of my favorite stories, this guy comes in and he has a huge tattoo on his neck and it's the name and he's like, I really need to get my ex-girlfriend's name covered. And not only was like the font very bold and black, but it had a super dark gray drop shadow underneath it.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, I have no idea possibly what to do with this tattoo. And he is kind of like, well, I can try to come up with something. You know, I took a picture of it and like told him that I'd maybe try to brainstorm something. And after we were finished with that conversation, before he leaves, he goes, oh, and you know, maybe if we can cover this, we can cover this. And he pulls down the collar of his shirt and right below his neck was his ex-wife's name.
Oh.
Again, in big black bold letters. So I think like the girlfriend that was on his neck must have been like, you have to get my name higher than hers.
You can't cover this one.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that some people will never learn.
Yeah.
So you are a visual artist. I mean, that's drawing, painting, tattoos, some photography in there too, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Have you ever done, I guess, more commercial art, whether that be a logo, albums, that type of thing?
Yeah, definitely. People will message me all the time for different commissions and stuff. I've slowed down on it recently just because I'm really busy tattooing and stuff. Like, I don't even really get to do a lot of personal art, like, my painting or anything like that. But I do that stuff on occasion for sure.
Going back to it, so outside of art and tattoos, what are some of your hobbies?
They pretty much are all centered around art and stuff. I do like to play some video games when I have the time and don't make myself feel guilty for doing something that isn't work related. I love to travel. I like to hang out with my pets, and yeah, I mean, I like to garden too. I just kind of got into that recently also. So those are kind of some of them. It's like always hard to think of stuff that you like to do when you're being asked like that.
I completely understand. Yeah. I usually the first thing I go to, I have a podcast. Oh, so besides that, what do you do? Well, I work and I sleep.
Yeah.
I completely feel that. Sleep. Oh, right? Seriously though? I mean, especially when it's so hot out and the world sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, sleep is the... You're tattooing out of Idaho. Correct me if I'm wrong. So as I understand right now, tattooing in Idaho isn't really regulated by the state?
Unregulated completely.
So how does that work?
Go over, you get a business license, and you open up a shop.
Wow. So like the only actual legal requirement you need is a business license?
Pretty much, yeah. I tattooed, like I said, in California, which is one of the strictest states, and then the owner of the shop tattooed in Washington, which is also very strict, so we uphold those standards for sure. Tattooing's actually kind of almost made me a little bit of a germaphobe in a way.
Oh, completely understandable.
Yeah, so even though it is unregulated and we don't have to, we still get our bloodborne pathogens. We still, obviously are taking every precaution that we can to maintain the cleanest environment to tattoo out of.
Definitely. Okay. I was actually about to ask kind of on the flip side there, just because my, I guess, experience in Idaho shops is definitely very limited, but in the shops I've been to, they seem perfectly clean and fine, just like any other reputable shop that you see anywhere else. So I guess I was wondering, just do you feel, in your opinion, because there isn't any sort of board overseeing kind of tattooing in Idaho, that the artists themselves kind of hold themselves to a bit of a higher standard?
I would definitely like to think that, everyone that is tattooing in Idaho, although it is unregulated, that they're still holding themselves to those standards. I know that there's been kind of scratchers that'll try to open up their own shops, and I'm sure that they, because there's things that you're taught that aren't kind of common sense to people. I think that they probably aren't doing, unfortunately. But there's not really much that I can think of, like, as far as, shops that are, like, not up to par on that. So, yeah, I definitely like to think that the fellow tattooers in the Coeur d'Alene, Rathdrum, Post Falls area, that their shops are clean and reputable, because I've only heard pretty good reviews about things like that, so. Me
too, and I mean, pretty much everything bad I've heard, it's from a scratcher, and I'm like, well, scratcher's gonna scratch. That's what they do.
Exactly.
How's the whole coronavirus pandemic affected your business?
Obviously we were shut down for 2 months. Before that, we had started kind of trying to alternate days off so that there was a limit of how many people were in the shop. Going back to the cleaning stuff, I like to think that we always keep ourselves to, the trick of the, tattooing is, you have to act like everything's contaminated. So, kind of having that in the back of your mind since reopening. I've seen people be like, oh yeah, restaurants and things like that are always like, we're taking extra precautions to be sanitary. And it's like, I feel like maybe you should have done that before there was even a pandemic. But as far as business goes, like I said, it's been insanely busy. And I've had tons of people saying, like, do you have any openings? Everywhere is booked. So I think that's kind of an all across the board thing, that everyone is not only playing catch up for those 2 months of appointments that they had to reschedule, but then there's an influx of people probably with money, stimulus checks, unemployment, things like that. People are like, oh, I got the cash to spend. So
let's go put it under the skin.
Yeah. And, people coming in to visit from out of town. Coeur d'Alene obviously gets like a lot of summer traffic, so
seriously,
we get a lot of that business coming in for their little souvenir tattoos, which is cool. But it's definitely been busy coming out of it. And then through the shutdown, I tried to make sure that I was all right. Like before shutdown, I was like, okay, it seems like it's coming, so I'm gonna sort of prep for this. And then kind of going back to the commissions thing, I had a few that were kind of lined up, so I took care of those while I was on my break.
There you go. Make it work for you.
Yeah.
Excuse me. It came back to me. I was going to say, one thing I do like about Idaho's, I guess, lack of regulation is I feel like a lot of places, it's regulations are there that really don't make sense, or they seem like overkill. Mm-hmm. I know that in, let's see, I believe it's Louisiana, possibly Florida too. I believe it's a requirement that every station be in a completely enclosed separate bay. Yeah. So like a lot of tattoo shops, piercing shops down there, you'll go in and it feels almost like a hospital, like with a waiting room, and then you have different like exam rooms almost, and that just it feels kind of weird and foreign to me every time I'm down that way, you know.
Also in California, you have to kind of have stations separated. You have to have a hand washing station in every tattoo station.
Oh wow.
You can't let any tattoo leave unwrapped, and it is against the law to use like saran wrap to cover them. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, even if they're like, oh yeah, I live right down here, I'm just walking home.
So does it have to be like wait, so you can't use like saran, so does it have to be like a Tegaderm? Or?
Either Tegaderm, dry lock pads, whatever kind of bandage that isn't saran wrap, basically. Yeah.
Wow, I had no idea. That is nuts. Oh my god. With the whole coronavirus pandemic, so just how is tattooing today different for you than it was a year ago?
So I always wear a mask when I tattoo now, and that's not something I really did much before. And then kind of like I said, not much has changed because it's kind of a lot of the same cleanliness standards that, you know, we're still treating everything before this happened like it was contaminated. And we have like COVID release forms too now. And that's not required. That's just something we did as a shop to kind of...
It makes sense.
Yeah. And then we're trying to just be a little more cautious and careful about everyone that comes in. And, you know, of course, if you're even feeling the slightest bit sick, reschedule. And yeah, I definitely think the biggest thing is probably like the masks and then people just being kind of cautious themselves.
What's one piece of advice you would give to someone who wants to become a tattoo artist?
Definitely intake as much information that you can from anyone who is in the tattoo industry. Ask questions. If you're going to become an apprentice, always watch your like mentor, the person that's teaching you, or anyone that's in the shop that you want to like pick up on a technique from. But most importantly, like before you get to that point, just really work on your art skill, because if you have that down, that's going to be huge for your career. Because I had to work on, you know, like I said, I was drawing all my life and I still felt like my art skills like weren't there. At least for tattooing. There's certain rules to tattooing and like things that make a good tattoo that I think people don't think about as much. Yeah, just be persistent. Don't get discouraged. It can be very discouraging. And be respectful. Don't have any kind of sense of entitlement. If you think you deserve it, you probably don't. You know, you just gotta be kind of humble about it and be appreciative for that opportunity, because it is a great career. Like, I love being a tattooer, and so it's exciting, but you gotta definitely stay humbled about it.
Stay humble. Very good advice. All right. And I think you might have just kind of given me the answer there. Just this is one that I've asked a lot of artists on this show. Theoretically, if a nuclear bomb were to go off today, just looking back on everything, did you make the right choice becoming a professional tattooer?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess it depends on like if there's like a fallout shelter and we're good, you know, if we like can save ourselves. I don't know really what tattooing is going to do good in that post-apocalyptic world, but I'll figure something out. But I definitely still feel like I stand by my decision for sure.
Wow, oh man, I would guess I was kind of anticipating the apocalypse right there. I didn't even think of the fallout. Well, if 2020's taught me anything, I think that should a nuke hit us right now and there's nuclear fallout, should we survive or anything, I think that the people saying that fallout isn't real are going to kill us long before the fallout does. Mm-hmm. Tia, real quickly before we go here, anyone who might be listening to the program you want to give a shout out to?
All my close friends and family, my clients, I love all you guys. My mentor, Weston Maddox, what's up? And then, yeah, like my boss and my coworkers, Jake, Missy, Cody, Allie. And yeah, I just want to say thanks to everyone and that I appreciate all of you guys and that I wouldn't be anywhere without you.
Hell yeah. And that's the Tattoo Temple out in Rathdrum, right?
Yeah.
Sweet deal. And just real quick, if you want to go ahead and plug your social media right there, where can we follow you at?
So my Instagram is just at Tia Sugarcoma, and then my Facebook is just Tia Cochran.
Awesome. All right. Well, Tia, thank you again so much for your time. It was awesome hearing from you.
Yeah, thank you.
That was awesome. Tia, thanks again so much. I had a blast. I hope you did too. I'm sure we'll be hearing from her again on this show. So I really wanted to put a COVID/quarantine tattoos episode together, but I couldn't quite get enough interviews lined up in time. Who knows? Maybe there weren't as many scratcher tattoos as I thought during the quarantine. Well, either that or people are finally ashamed of the shitty kitchen Tiger King tattoos that they just couldn't fucking live without 4 months ago. You know? Either way, I'm okay with that. That episode should be coming out in the future, though. Still optimistic, still have a couple interviews, so let's just see where that goes. Be sure to go ahead and check out Tia on Instagram and Facebook. While you're there, go ahead and check us out at campsite.bio/ex-girlfriend tattoo podcast. Or go ahead and just hit us up at 509-713-2217. Well, thanks for listening. Hope you've enjoyed. I'm Austin Larson, and this has been the Ex-Girlfriend Tattoo Podcast.